One of the most common things I hear from people who already know they need to make a change or who already are making a change is, I don't want recovery to become my whole life. And honestly, it just freaks them out and makes them panic because they don't want to be the person who goes to a meeting every single day and definitely not multiple meetings every day. They don't want every conversation to be about craving, relapse prevention, triggers, accountability, treatment, or how their sobriety's going. They just don't want their whole identity to be about being the person with the addiction. Yes, they want to fix the problem. They want to put it behind them and get back to living a normal life. I got to say that is valid feeling because recovery is supposed to help you get your life back. It's not supposed to become another thing that consumes your entire life. But there's an important distinction that we need to make here, right? There is a difference between not wanting recovery to define you as a person and trying to move past recovery before you've actually built enough stability to move forward safely. Sometimes when people say, I don't want recovery to be my whole life, what they really mean is, I don't want to think about this anymore. I don't want people checking on me. I don't want my family to bring this up anymore. I don't want to keep talking about what happened. And honestly, that's completely understandable because the whole thing is exhausting. You probably feel embarrassed. You might feel like every mistake you ever made is now under the microscope. And you feel like your family has reduced you to this one problem, even though you know you're a lot more than that. Maybe because you're a good parent, a hard worker, a successful professional, or someone who's carried a lot of responsibility. Everything seems to come back to the drinking, the drugs, the lying, the broken promises, or the crisis that finally brought everything out to the open. When that happens, it feels suffocating. But here's the hard part. You may be ready to stop talking about it before the people around you are ready to stop being affected by it. Your readiness to move on probably isn't going to happen at the same time. You may have stopped 2 weeks ago and you know in your heart this time is different and you've made major changes. But your family is still trying to understand what was real, what wasn't, what might happen next, and whether they can relax and take their hands off. To you, their questions feel like punishment because it brings up a lot of really uncomfortable emotion. But to them, the questions are just an attempt to regain a sense of safety. Now, that doesn't mean every conversation should revolve around your addiction forever. It doesn't mean your family should interrogate you constantly. Because honestly, talking about it all the time isn't any better for them than it is for you. Don't panic because you don't have to spend the rest of your life proving that you're not going to relapse. But rebuilding stability and trust is going to take longer than simply stopping the behavior or the substance. If this kind of conversation about addiction and recovery is helpful for you, make sure you subscribe to this channel and I'll make sure you stay 5 steps ahead of it. You can put this whole thing behind you. On this channel, we talk a lot about the things that people are thinking but don't want to say out loud. For example, let's talk about meetings. Spending the whole rest of their life sitting in a church basement, drinking bad coffee and talking about addiction every night. And for some people, meetings are a huge part of their recovery. They find connection there, they find accountability, they find people who understand them, and they may genuinely enjoy going and they may continue to attend for years because it adds something valuable to their lives. There's nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't mean that every person has to build the exact same kind of recovery life. Some people need to go to meetings every day, especially at the beginning. And some people need a highly structured program. Heck, some people even need residential treatment, sober living, medication, counseling, coaching, medical treatment, or even a strong recovery community. So the real question isn't, do I have to go to meetings forever? The better question is, what do I need that's going to help me build a life I no longer feel like I need to escape? Because stopping the behavior or the substance is just one part of recovery. You have to learn how to handle the situations that the substance or the behavior was handling for you. What do you do when you're angry or bored or lonely or disappointed or ashamed or overwhelmed? What do you do when you want relief right now? If alcohol and drugs or pornography or shopping or gambling, if that's been your main coping system, you can't just simply remove those and expect that nothing else in your life is going to need attention. Now, don't panic because that's not me telling you that you need to talk about recovery all day, every day. Honestly, in my opinion, after you get past the first part, most of recovery is just sanity management. Like maintaining sobriety long term is just maintaining your sanity. So it's all about making sure you keep yourself in a good place space mentally and in your relationships and spiritually and with your work. If you were able to look into some of my sessions, you would be surprised about how little conversation is actually about the addiction. Yes, there's a stage where the recovery needs to be the biggest priority. That's mostly because you're changing habits and routines. And in order to do that, it needs to be the first foremost. Sobriety starts to move itself into more of an autopilot, and it won't take that much energy forever. It's like having physical therapy after you have like a serious injury. You don't need physical therapy to become your entire identity. You don't need to spend the rest of your life talking about your injured knee. But if you rush through the rehab process because you're tired of dealing with it, you might never fully get back. That's why you do the concentrated work so that eventually you get back to living. Recovery works the same way. Yes, it requires more attention. You need more support, more honest conversations, more deliberate choices. The goal is to build enough stability in recovery so that it becomes the foundation underneath your life, not the only thing happening in your life. Eventually, you should have other things to talk about, regular things like work, relationships, parenting, goals, travel, hobbies, fitness, creativity, friendships, purpose, what you want to build next. But moving forward is different than pretending the past never happened. Putting it behind you doesn't mean running away from it. It means learning enough that you don't have to keep repeating it. Because this is where so many people get frustrated with their families. Because you start thinking, okay, I've admitted what happened. I apologized. I stopped drinking. I'm doing better. Why do we still have to talk about this all the time? The thing is, sometimes the family really does need to learn how to stop making every moment about the addiction. But they may have spent so long monitoring the problem that they no longer know how to relate to you outside of it. They may ask too many questions. They may interpret every bad mood as a warning sign. They might struggle to recognize progress because they're still bracing themselves for another crisis. And that's real. But sometimes you could be trying to shut the conversation down because you don't want to tolerate the discomfort of rebuilding trust. You got to know the difference in those two things, because it's reasonable to say that I want us to be able to talk honestly about how things are going. But what I don't want is every interaction between us to become an addiction conversation. That's absolutely a fair request. And it will help a lot if you give your family something solid to rebuild trust on. In fact, one of the fastest ways to build trust is to be calm and regulated when they bring these topics up. Following through on what you say you're going to do without being chased. If you agree to do something and now you changed your mind, I see this all the time. Like, let's say maybe you agreed to do a meeting every day for 6 months. And you get 3 weeks into it and you're like, holy crap, I can't do this anymore. Then just have the honest conversation with them. What you don't want to do is pretend like you're going to those meetings, but really you're skipping out on those meetings, because if that comes out, you're going to be like negative 4 million in the trust category. And that's what is going to keep you feeling like you can never put it behind you. So just have the hard conversation. Kind of goes along with the whole thing about telling the truth before you get caught. Even though they don't want to hear it, it's going to build a lot more trust because they know that at least you're being honest and you're not avoiding things. So try not to take every question like an accusation. Just remain calm, respond to the question, and that'll make that other person feel calm. If you get dodgy or angry or say, why do we have to keep talking about this? It's just going to hit their panic button, which is going to make them more freaked out, which is going to make the whole thing last that much longer. The more you can demonstrate stability, consistency, being emotionally available, the more the people around you are going to begin to exhale and let go of all that tension, which is driving you both crazy. No, you should not have to live forever under suspicion, but trust can't be demanded on your preferred timeline. It has to be rebuilt through repeated experience. And here's another really important point. You're not your addiction. And you're also not required to make recovering person your whole identity. Recovery can be part of your story without being the only interesting thing about you. In fact, the strongest recovery usually involves expanding your identity. You're not just someone who stopped drinking. Because with recovery, you become someone who's dependable, someone who's honest, someone who can tolerate discomfort, who follows through, someone who works on their relationships, who knows how to ask for help without giving away your autonomy. And most importantly, you become someone who builds a life that fits with your values. To me, that's what recovery is all about. It's about aligning your behavior with your values, because when you do that, you feel good about yourself. You like yourself. You respect yourself. And when you like yourself and you respect yourself, you have a whole lot less need to keep seeking relief through those unproductive behaviors. This whole thing is a lot bigger than simply being the sober person. I don't want you to spend your whole life obsessing about what you're trying not to do. I want you to become really invested in what you're building instead. It's actually a lot more effective to focus on being invested on what you're trying to build instead of what you're trying to give up. But you have to be careful not to use your desire to move on as an excuse to skip the work that will actually allow you to move on. You can't put something behind you refusing to look at it. You put it behind you by understanding it, changing what needs to change, developing confidence in your new patterns so the old ones stop running your life. And you don't have to do it in a way that feels generic or disconnected from who you are. It should help you become more aligned with the person you already know you're capable of being. Now, if you want a recovery program that focuses on your strengths and focuses on your value system and building the life you want, then I want to invite you to check out our strengths-based recovery coaching program. It's just recovery coaching that focuses on what is already in you that's going good and how to redirect your superpowers, your gifts, your talents in a way that makes you feel good about yourself. We don't spend every session rehashing everything that went wrong. We look at who you are, what matters to you, what's been getting in your way, what kind of recovery structure actually works for your life and your personality. We also work on things like building coping skills, motivation, routines, identity, like a practical plan, because the goal isn't just to stop the addiction. I want you to build a life that feels worth protecting. You can find all the information about working with me below this video in the description. And lastly, I want to leave you with this. It is completely understandable that you don't want recovery to be your whole life. It shouldn't be. But for a while, it's going to need to be an important part, not because you're broken, not because you need to spend forever living in the past, and not because addiction defines you. You have to give recovery the attention it needs now so that addiction doesn't keep demanding your attention later. That is how you truly put it behind you.